Hello YouTube, 2007 Gladiator Beast YCS champion Mike Cohanum here. I finally entered my first local tournament with Gladiator Beast since the release of Supreme Darkness, and I went undefeated to take first place. So in this video, I'm going to go through the deck I used, the reason for my deck choices, an explanation of what some of the cards are for, and some changes that I'm considering making to the deck moving forward. It was a small local. I went 3-0, but a lot of players were really impressed by how much you can do with just a single card in this deck. So I do think it is promising for what Gladiator Beasts are capable of in the post-Supreme Darkness metagame. As always, I will put a deck list in the description so that if you just want to copy the deck to play around with it and you don't want to sit through the video, you can do that. I would appreciate, though, if you like this video and subscribe to my channel. I do intend to bring a lot more Gladiator Beast content in the future. With that, here's the deck profile. So I'm running a total of 41 cards. I just couldn't figure out which card to cut to get it down to 40, and figured if I played with 41, I can figure out over the course of several duels what is worth cutting, and if more than one card is worth cutting, what I can add in as well. So I'm running 41 cards, 25 of them are monsters. Gladiator Beast decks like to run a variety of monsters. They always have, because you are able to swap gladiators into different ones, triggering their effects. So you really want access to as many effects as possible. That's always been how the deck is. But it's safer to run more monsters now than it was back in the day, thanks to this guy, Gladiator Beast Gistel. Gladiator Beast Gistel lets you reveal it and another Gladiator Beast from your hand to special summon both of them. So it just spits out monsters and helps trigger the effects of your Gladiator Beasts. So it's not like back in 2007, 2009, where if you had a bunch of Gladiator Beast monsters in your hand, you're just normal summoning them one turn at a time. Gistel really accelerates the deck. This is by far the best Gladiator Beast in the deck. And it's undoubtedly a 3 of. I would never consider cutting any copies of Gistel. Moving on from there, I'm running one copy of Gladiator Beast Equeste. This is going to be key to several combos, because when it's special summoned by a Gladiator Beast effect, you get to bring back a Gladiator Beast card from your graveyard to your hand. You can special summon it from the deck, obviously by the effects of several Gladiator Beasts, including the Link monster Dareios, if your opponent controls a monster. And you can also special summon it from your hand with Gistel, or from the graveyard with Dareios. You can also dump it to the graveyard with Gladiator Beast Noxious. So you have pretty consistent access to Equeste. You're typically going to use the effect of Equeste to bring back Gladiator Beast's Comeback, which can revive Tamer Editor, which is really the heart of the deck, and that's where your combos are really heading. I think Equeste is an easy 1 of. I don't think I would consider playing more or less. I think 1 is perfect. You have easy access and you don't need a second copy. Plus, it being wind, you don't need to worry about it getting banished. Next up is a slightly more questionable monster to include, Gladiator Beast Darius. I played a couple practice games prior to the tournament, and I found myself wanting Darius fairly frequently. So I decided to add a copy to the deck. It did come up occasionally. The extra body is more valuable now than it was in recent history, because we got so many amazing Gladiator Beast Link monsters. So special summoning Darius with a Gladiator Beast effect, using its effect to revive a Gladiator from the graveyard, and having that extra monster to link summon with is actually quite good. So I think one copy, I think I'm going to keep the one copy of him in the deck. Next up, the last level 4 or lower Gladiator Beast that's still in the deck, Gladiator Beast Attorix. A lot of people play more than one copy of him because he's so key to the combos that the deck can perform. He's level 4, so you can normal summon him. But if you special summon him by the effect of another Gladiator Beast, you can change his level by sending a Gladiator Beast from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard. So now, not only does that help you summon Tamer Editor, who needs 2 level 5 or higher Gladiator Beast to summon it, but it also fuels Gladiator Beast Claudius, which requires you to have 5 Gladiator Beasts in your graveyard or field to send those cards back to the deck and then summon Claudius. It's actually shocking how quickly you can summon Claudius with this deck. Between Gladiator Beast Attorix and Gladiator Beast Noxious, you can and the variety of cards that you can use every turn to special summon Gladiator Beasts and trigger their effects, you can very quickly get 5 into the graveyard while also building your field. So Attorix is awesome, but I am running, I am maxed out on Fire Formation Tenki, and since Attorix is a Beast Warrior, I can also get it with Tenki. All of these gladiators are also, Gladiator Beasts rather, are also searchable by Gladiator Proving Ground, which I also run 3 copies of, and by Flavian, the field spell card, which I'm also playing 3 copies of. So you have fairly consistent access to all of them, so I don't think you need more than 1 copy of Attorix. Obviously, the reason I'm maxed out on basically every single way to get a gladiator is because you want to see Gistel every game. So between 3 Gistel, 3 Proving Ground, and 3 Flavian, that's basically 9 chances to draw Gistel. If you don't draw Gistel, don't despair. I'll talk about some other things that the deck can do to still win. Next up are the 3 level 5 or higher Gladiator Beasts, all of which can be used to either it can be used to summon Tamer Editor or sent to the graveyard with Attorix to help you summon Tamer Editor. First up is Gladiator Beast Noxious. I think this is actually key to the deck because it's key to the combo that involves Attorix plus any Gladiator Beast. And I also found myself grabbing Noxious constantly from the deck when you don't have any other Gladiator Beast effects to utilize, because he can just send any of them from the graveyard, from the deck to the graveyard, which makes it easier to summon Claudius. And when you're naturally going through the combos, you're going to load up the graveyard with 3 or 4 cards. An extra activation of Noxious will make the difference between being able to summon Claudius. So it was not in my original build before I kind of figured out the combos, studied them, and realized what I was doing. But now I would play Noxious in pretty much any similar variant of this deck. Next up is Gladiator Beast Augustus. Going into this deck building, I thought Augustus is just the best level 5 or higher and is a must-have in Gladiator Beast decks. He's also a required fusion material for Gladiator Beast Andabada, who's actually pretty good because he summons Gyzarus, and then Gyzarus could destroy 2 cards, and then Andabada and Gyzarus could be used to summon Tamer Editor. But I've actually cut Andabada from the extra deck, and then found that Augustus was not particularly good when you already have Gistel special summoning Glads from hand, and the Gladiator Beast lineup is fairly thin to begin with, so it's not likely you're going to draw so many Glads you really need to spit them out. He comes up once in a while, but honestly, if I had to cut one of the 3 high-level Glads, it would probably be Augustus. And the reason is because the last one is Vespasius, and unlike Augustus, Vespasius is a water monster. It's not dark, so it can't be banished by Bystials, which are obviously very popular in the current metagame because of how well they are positioned against Fiendsmith cards, which are popular. But Vespasius is great because you can send it to the graveyard with Attorix, you can send it to the graveyard with Noxious, so for it to be revived by Darius. Basically, anytime you send it to the graveyard, it's probably safe there. Players aren't using that many ways in the current metagame to banish water monsters from the graveyard. So this actually became the go-to card to dump. If it's in your hand, you can just maybe special summon it with Gistel. But you're constantly dumping Gladiator Beasts from the deck to the graveyard with Attorix and Noxious, either setting them up to be returned by Darius, or just putting them there to raise Attorix's level. And Vespasius, I think, is the prime choice for that. So I do like Vespasius in this deck. So those are the Gladiator Beasts. Next up is the Tri-Brigade engine. I tinkered with this a lot, and then settled on using a total of 6 Tri-Brigade cards. And it wasn't easy to settle on this. 3 of them are Fraktall. And the reason is because Fraktall is just an insane card, because it can send Kitt to the graveyard, Kitt can send Nervall, Nervall can grab another Fraktall, you can normal summon Fraktall. Now you'll have 3 Tri-Beasts, Beast Warrior, Wing Beast in the graveyard. You'll be able to use the normal summon Fractal's effect to banish 2 and summon Gladiator Beast Dragases. So even drawing no Gladiator Beasts, you could actually use Fractal, single-handedly use Fractal plus a battle phase to be able to tag out Dragases, get 2 Gladiator Beasts, and go off. I think I will do a combo video for that, because it actually came up in the tournament where I didn't draw a single Gladiator Beast, and I ended up winning the game just on the activation of a Fractal and a battle phase, because I went second. So Fractal is pretty good for just getting that started, loading up the graveyard to make sure you get at least 2 Tri-Beasts in there. It's also searchable by Fire Formation Tenki. So the Tenki will kind of smooth your hand, being able to get either Fractal or a Gladiator Beast. I'm using only 1 copy of Kitt. It's there because obviously it feeds from the Fractal, or you can special summon it with Rescue Cat. I recommend watching the 1-card combo video I previously released, which shows you everything you could do with Rescue Cat. I originally was playing more copies, a second copy of Kitt, thinking, well, what if I draw it? Then what am I going to do with my Rescue Cat? But I realized you could actually just special summon 2 Gistels from your deck if that happens with Rescue Cat, and that's actually fine. You could actually do a lot with 2 Gistels. You could do pretty much, you could do a very similar thing to what you could do with the Kitt. You could basically do the exact same thing, actually. You just won't have the extra Tri-Brigade monster in your hand. So Kitt, if you draw it, it's really not a brick. Plus it has the effect where you can banish cards from your grave, summon Dragases or a different Link monster. So I think 1 is enough. I don't think you need more. And then I'm using 2 copies of Nervall. Great card to discard with Flavian because it replaces itself with another card. Plus, it's part of the Fractal combo. The reason I'm running 2, though, is because I do want to be able to go... I do want to be able to discard... I do want to be able to use multiple copies of Nervall, maybe even discard a Nervall with Heraklinos, and be able to use that Nervall's effect to get another card to discard with Heraklinos. So I am playing 2 copies... but I think this is a little bit flexible. I don't know that I'm going to stick with the 3-1-2. I was also using Keras at one point, but felt like I wasn't really drawing it with a Tri-Beast enough to special summon it, or for that special summon to make a difference. So I actually cut Keras. After cutting it, I kind of felt like I didn't have enough cards that actually special summon from the hand. So maybe I'll put Keras back in, but this is what I ran with at the local, where I went undefeated. And I went 3-0. It was a small local. But I played against a Shark deck, I played against Malice, and I played against Kashtira Mimigul. So no Fiendsmith Ryziel or Ryziel in that particular tournament. So it wasn't the most competitive local, but this deck actually did demolish everyone. Next up is the non-engine. I'm just playing 1 Magnamhut, 1 Druiswurm. I wanted to play Bystials because they are positioned so well in the metagame. Also, most of the Gladiator Beast Link monsters, not Dragases, can use a Gladiator Beast plus 1 other monster. It doesn't have to be a Gladiator Beast, so the Bystials kind of fit in with that. But really, it's just in there because they're positioned well against Fiendsmith. So they're positioned well in the current metagame. Next, I have 3 copies of Rescue Cat. That's actually engine. But I think Rescue Cat's the best card in the deck. It's crazy what you could do with a single Rescue Cat. It's by far the best normal summon. And I did show off that 1-card Rescue Cat combo in a previous video, so I recommend checking that out if you're unfamiliar with what summoning a single copy of Rescue Cat can do in a deck like this. And then finally, I am playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, because you want to stop your opponent's plays. 2 copies of Fuwalos. I have the 3rd in the side deck. And those are the 25 monsters. Next up are the spells. Gladiator Rejection is a key combo piece. I get with Gistel all the time. In the previous combo videos that I posted, the combos use rejection quite often. Sometimes you don't have the luxury of getting rejection, and you have a better line that involves searching for a different card with Gistel, but then your plays are not as protected. Because rejection is insane because it prevents your opponent from targeting your Gladiator Beast except during the battle phase. Just watch out because Test Panther is not a Gladiator Beast. It's probably going to be the prime target for any sort of negation. So ideally, you're going to play out your cards so that if the Panther gets hit, you still have some line of play that will get you to Tamer Editor. But this card, like I said, is key to a lot of the combos the deck makes. 1 copy is enough, searchable by Gistel. 3 copies of Proving Ground. I mentioned this earlier. You really need that Gistel. If you have the Gistel already, it can get you Attorix, it can get you Darius, it can get you whatever you want. So it's a 3 of. Fire Formation Tenki I'm maxing out on. Again, it can get to Attorix if you need a Gladiator Beast, either to normal summon or summon with alongside Gistel, but it can also get you the Fraktall. Fraktall, which I mentioned earlier, can dump Tri-Beasts into the graveyard and get you another Tri-Brigade monster to normal summon. Normal summoning and summon Dragases with a battle phase erupts into an insane combo. So I think Tenki's good. Probably could cut if you wanted to. Cut a copy or 2, maybe a copy of it, to lower your odds of drawing multiples when it can only be activated once per turn. But I'm maxing out on the 3. Next is 3 copies of Flavian. Again, it's a way to get Gistel, but I will be honest, I did side out a copy in a lot of the matches when I was going second, just because I had a lot of cards in the side deck that I wanted to put in going second. And it does kind of hurt because you really are using Flavian plus a card to get the Gistel, so you are ending up down a card unless you're discarding something like the Nervall. But if it's really powerful and you really want to get to the Gistel. So I'm main decking 3, and then finally 2 copies of Gladiator Beast Comeback. You want to be able to get it from the deck, you want to be able to get it from the graveyard. I think 2 copies are perfect. I think 1 is not enough. I think 3 is too many. I never found myself wishing I had a 3rd in the deck. The card is just so easy to grab. Between Test Panther's effect, Gistel's effect, Equeste being able to return it, and it can just keep bringing back Tamer Editor because it's not a once per turn card effect. So that's 12 spell cards total. And then finally I am playing 4 trap cards, 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. That's Disruption alongside the 3 Ash Blossoms and the 2 Fuwalos I'm playing in the main deck. And 1 copy of Gladiator Beast Charge, which can be set off of the effect of the Flavian. If I side out a Flavian, which I typically did going second, I usually side out the charge as well. I just don't foresee being able to set a trap and to activate it successfully when I'm going second, or that even being important. So then I'm just basically foregoing that effect on the remaining copies of Flavian if that happens. In the extra deck, I'm using Gladiator Beast Heraklinos, summonable by Tamer Editor. Gladiator Beast Gyzarus, which you can summon by Tamer Editor, or with Bestiary, which I have in the side deck if you want to side Bestiary in. 2 copies of Domitianus, which you can summon by, you guessed it, Tamer Editor. And I am using 2 copies of Tamer Editor. If they hit one with Kashtira Unicorn or banish one with a Bystial, you still have another copy left. It's actually pretty hard to banish with a Bystial, because usually the first time you summon Tamer Editor, you summon Domitianus, which can negate the activation of a Bystial's effect and destroy it. But Tamer Editor is just so critical to the deck, I do run 2 copies. I'm using Gladiator Beast Essedarii. I played a couple casual games where I wished he was in my extra deck in order to bridge into Tamer Editor, because he's a level 5, so then you can just turn 2 level 4 or lowers into Essedarii, and now you have one of the 2 5s you need for Tamer Editor. So he's in here now. I'm going to test him out, see what happens. Gladiator Beast Claudius, I'm actually running 2 copies of. I don't know that you really need 2 copies. I find most of the time you win the game when you summon the first copy, but I do like that he can be used as a fusion material to summon the second copy of Claudius and recycle the first copy. So I am playing 2 copies. So those are all the fusions in the deck, extra deck. That's 9 total, leaving room for 6 Link monsters, 1 Test Panther, and 1 Dareios. Test Panther is a vulnerable card. I don't think you need a second one. You really are just doing it on your first turn and hoping that pans out, and then you win. If it gets disrupted, you're hoping you can still move forward with the rest of your cards, and then you're just not worried about Test Panther. Dareios is insane. You're probably going to want to be summoning him every turn, but you can just send him back to the deck with Claudius, back to the extra deck, on the following turn to be able to use it again if you need to. So I think 1 copy of Dareios is enough. Both of these have effects that are once per turn effects, so it's not like you want to ever summon 2 in 1 turn. You might, I guess, summon 2 Dareios in 1 turn just to get 2 Glads off the field, so that you can Claudius them from the graveyard and not lose them from the field, but I don't know. That seems pretty... I don't think that's worth the 1 more extra deck slot, so I think 1 Dareios is fine. I'm using 1 copy of Gladiator Beast Dragases. If you're getting 2 Glads off the field and not a Glad and a non-Glad, this is probably stronger to summon anyway, with if you're trying to get cards into the grave to summon Claudius. Dragases, though, is really in here, and honestly, I don't even know if I'd play him in a Glad Beast deck without no Tri-Brigade monsters. He's really in here for the Tri-Brigade synergy. The fact that you could special summon him with the effects of the Tri-Brigade monsters because he's a Link 2 Winged Beast, even if you draw no Gladiator Beast, is absolutely insane. The fact that you can turn 1 Fraktall and a battle phase into a Dragases and a tag will leave you basically with a resolved, if it all resolves, with a Test Panther's effect, a Test Bear's effect, because you're just going to get any 2 Glads from your deck that you want with their effects after this tags out. Plus the Fraktall, so you have the extra body, so it's even stronger than resolving a Test Bear's effect. You might notice Test Bear is absent from my deck, because I would rather take this line of play. And you have plenty of combos going first already. I just think that the Tri-Brigade play into Dragases is more worthwhile when the Test Bear play is just so vulnerable to cards that negate it. It has no protection even under rejection, and it's vulnerable to just about everything. Finally, I have SP Little Knight, which is usually summoned at the end of most of the combos. Amazing card in this deck because Domitianus lets you choose your opponent's attack targets, so he's really hard to stop. They can't just run over it in battle and then make their plays. They have to figure out how to play through it. And he's also a great card for getting Tamer Editor into the graveyard so that you can revive it, just because he's a Link 2. So and he's a warrior, so he's not disrupting your ability to use Gladiator Beast Comeback to bring back Tamer Editor, or any Gladiator Beast for that matter, because none of them are warriors in this deck. And then finally, just 2 Tri-Brigade monsters, Ferrigit and Shurake. The reason I'm running the 2 of them is for a combo that I had showed in a previous video about what you can do with... It was basically what you can do with the Tri-Brigade effect, summoning Shurake, where you can banish 4, summon with, let's say, Fraktall, banish 4 from your grave, summon Shurake. Shurake will banish an opponent's card. You would use Fraktall and Shurake, or whichever Tri-Brigade monster in Shurake, to summon Ferrigit. And then since you have 4 banished, you'd be able to search your deck for Rescue Cat, add it to your hand with Shurake's effect, then use Ferrigit's effect to special summon Rescue Cat from your hand, allowing you to tribute it and special summon either 2 Gistels or Kitt and a Gistel and go off from there. So this is the Shurake and the Ferrigit combo together. The Shurake is also just good to have as non-targeting banishment. So those are the 2 Tri-Brigade monsters that I am using. So that's 15 cards in the extra deck, unsurprisingly. And then finally, here's my 15 card side deck. I'll be honest, I was not particularly meticulous building this. So there's definitely room for improvement here. But here's that third Mulcharmy Fuwalos I had promised. I'm using 2 copies of Mulcharmy Perulia, 2 copies of Mulcharmy Meowls for Malice, 1 Lancia because I just didn't have time to find more copies of it. I would probably play 3 Lancia, honestly, for Malice. Gladiator Beast Bestiary. There are certain matchups where Gyzarus is really good, and there are also matchups where destroying the back row is really good. So I think Bestiary is best suited for the side deck. Makes it easier to summon Gyzarus and has a strong effect against decks that set cards to the back row or activate continuous spell or trap cards. But also Bestiary is better going second because he's all about destruction, and if you're going on your very first turn, there's nothing to destroy typically. So Bestiary is also better going second. So it's a good side deck card, I think. I did want to play some going first cards also because I have cards in the main deck that I want to side out, like the 2 copies of Fuwalos. In the event that I lose game 1 and choose to go first in game 2. You always choose to go first with this deck. At least I always choose to go first with this deck. But it actually has great play going second because of it's able to tag out the Gladiator Beasts and has that play where it can summon Dragases and tag out. And a lot of times you can turn 1 tag out and a tag in into an incredible combo. So I like that it has a strong go second play, but I still choose to go first every time. So for that going first, I have Called by the Grave. Stop some of those monster effects that activate in the hand that the deck is vulnerable to. Triple Tactics Thrust and Triple Tactics Talent for the same reason. And Dimensional Barrier just to go with the Thrust. But again, it's like I'm running 1 Thrust, 1 Barrier. I don't know that makes sense. Probably should have more copies of Thrust to justify the Barrier. But this was kind of just, the side deck was just thrown together. Then I also am using 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. This card's actually insane. Dark Ruler No More is really good in this deck because Gladiator Beasts are so good at just dismantling fields with Gyzarus. So if you're going second, you can use Dark Ruler No More to negate their effects. You might want to side in Gladiator Beast Bestiary and just tear their field apart with Gladiator Beast Gyzarus. And then the last card I'm siding is actually Ancient Warrior's Oath Double Dragon Lords. I side that in when I'm going first. I typically take out Essedarii. But Double Dragon Lords is just a great card to summon with a Tri-Brigade Monsters effect on your very first turn. Even better if you drew Tenki, which is a card to send to the graveyard with its effect. But it's additional disruption because you can send a card from your hand or field to the graveyard to return one of your opponent's cards to their hand. So it's just more disruption. So Double Dragon Lords is in the side deck as well. So that's the Gladiator Beast deck. This deck build is by no means perfect. It is the first tournament I've actually entered with Gladiator Beast post Supreme Darkness, but it is inspiring because I was able to win that first tournament and see what the deck is capable of doing. Let me know down below what you think of this deck and what's been working for you when you play Gladiator Beasts.